It's time to talk about it. It's tough watching Teoscar Hernandez play for the Dodgers, a team that might be headed to the World Series. But his contract's up after this season. Is it a possibility he comes back to the Toronto Blue Jays?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco, Carter First 2 as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you go and follow us, subscribe on YouTube anyway. It really does help us out a lot, and it keeps us at the top of your page. Also, it lets you know if we're going live, if we post any shorts, anything like that. So make sure you go and do that. We also, link is in the description. Go check out. We got the Locked On Blue Jays shop available. You got some products on here like some of these and some of these for our new ones that we just released for Davis Schneider. Also, you can go and join the Discord channel. Link is in the description as well. So if you want to talk Blue Jays with us any time of day, you can go and join that Discord link. A lot to talk about today. We got to talk about Teoscar Hernandez. You know, obviously a guy that we both like. We had this conversation last year, Carter, just about, should the Blue Jays think about re-signing him? Is this a possibility? And this year, again, it's coming up because of the one-year deal that he was on. What is it looking like? What are his honest-to-God chances? And then sort of going into just what his time was with the Blue Jays, his relationships with the team. Does that help? And something that sort of Hazel Mae sort of asked him the other day. Also, we're going to get into just some World Series talk in the third segment, just what's going on in the playoffs. We'll break that all down for you guys as well. Let's start off Teoscar Hernandez, or however Buck used to say it, that he just can never pronounce his name, Teoscar Hernandez or whatever he used to say.
He said there's one name, Teoscar Hernandez. He didn't say Hernandez, just an interesting name from Buck Martinez with Teo.
Yeah, so this is a message that sort of Teo put out to the Blue Jays fans when he was talking with Hazel Mae just the other day. I just wanted to pass this along. This is sort of what got the conversation started. He goes, people in Canada, they know part of my heart, it's there in Toronto is what he meant, and part of it in Canada and just everything. And I think it was a nice message, and it sort of got me thinking, Carter, this deal of Teoscar Hernandez is done after this season. Yes, there's a good chance that the Dodgers, obviously throw the bag at him and get him to stay after the season he's had. But I think this is just me talking, but at the end of the day, if the Blue Jays forked over some money, I think Teoscar Hernandez would jump at the opportunity to come back and play in Toronto. I mean, obviously we talked about the fact that he's really good friends with Vlad and some of the other players on the team. So I guess what I'm asking you is, do you see this sort of at all a possibility?
It fits what a need that the Toronto Blue Jays need. It's a power bat, and that's something that Ross Atkins has said that he's not necessarily looking for. He's looking for a more complete bat. Teo's his main thing is power. Obviously, that's what he's doing for the Dodgers right now. He's and the playoff success is obviously something that helps him out too. It would make a lot of sense. And like you said, with the Vladdy and Teoscar Hernandez relationship, we said, Juan Soto and Vladdy are friends. Yeah, you could say they're friends, but they're not friends like Teoscar Hernandez and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are. Just looking at the home run derby this season, the first person to see Teoscar Hernandez when he wins the home run derby is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Vice versa. Vladdy's in the home run derby. Teoscar Hernandez is there along every step of the way. The breaks, he's giving him some words of encouragement. Probably, teasing them a little bit as well in the moment. But you can tell these guys have had a very good relationship, even in their time in Toronto, their time outside whenever they're at MLB events, things like that. So obviously there's personal interest there. There's a history there as well. Is there bad blood with Teo and Ross Atkins? Probably a little bit. I feel like there's something there. Teo did express interest about re-signing as well. I think he did want to come back to the Toronto Blue Jays. He just obviously did not reach on the monetary value. This is something they should look into this season. It would make a lot of sense. It's a good fit. And 33 home runs this season is something that will definitely play in this Toronto Blue Jays lineup.
Yeah, it'd be tough to pass up. And I don't necessarily see the negative in this. This is a guy that's been proven. We know what kind of player Teoscar Hernandez is. And I think that that's the good thing, right? There's other guys that they might try to take shots on. maybe as Canadian baseball fans and Toronto Blue Jays fans, maybe some of the guys that we're not so familiar with. This is a guy that we're 100% familiar with. We know what he brings to the table. And I believe that there will be an offer. I really do. I think it really depends on what happens in this playoffs for Teo, just to see how the Dodgers do. If they win the World Series, you got to think that it's probably good, a good part of it that he wants to go back to the Dodgers to try to win. But if they don't win, maybe he sees an opportunity in Toronto. It's really going to depend on how this series goes in these next possibly 2 series that the Dodgers have. I guess, Carter, my next point is he the right fit for this offseason?
Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back and just kind of focus on like Teo wanting to come here and just, if the Dodgers do win the World Series, I think no matter what, if the Dodgers win the World Series, you'd want to come back because your team just won the World Series. Just Shohei Ohtani's still going to be there. Mookie Betts still going to be there. You're still going to have everyone coming back. If you lose the World Series, it's going to feel like they're right there. Right now, it felt like that the last few years of the Dodgers, that they're right there. They're one move away from winning a World Series. I think Teo would be a guy that would probably want to run it back. He'd probably want to go get his ring, a guy that has deserved it, been with the Toronto Blue Jays before his Dodgers stint, and obviously the Mariners a very long time. This is a guy that I think he deserves a ring. So if he decides to stay in Los Angeles with, again, the warm weather, a great baseball team, you look, the Blue Jays just finished last in the AL East. If Teo doesn't like winning, sure, come to Toronto. You're going to win more in LA than Toronto. I'm sorry, I'm going to flat out say that. I don't think that's a hot take whatsoever. You're just going to win more consistently in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization than the Toronto Blue Jays. So in that sense, there's a lot going against the Toronto Blue Jays right now. It's the same thing with Shohei Ohtani. It's tough to fault them for picking LA over Toronto. Is this the right fit for the Toronto Blue Jays? Defensively, we've said it multiple times on this podcast. I mean, we don't need defense. Teo, he's not the greatest defender out there. He's not the worst case scenario of all time. He's definitely below average. Not a terrible arm, just obviously the reaction, things like that. His actual fielding on fly balls isn't the greatest ever. But you look at this baseball team, you look where you have holes on your team. You have Dalton Varsho probably playing center field. You have George Springer playing right field. You can probably move George Springer to right field or left field. You can probably move Teo to left or right field as well. There is a spot open in the outfield. There's also a wide open spot at DH. So the fit here, again, makes sense. A lot of this does make sense. It's just, do they want to run something back that we've seen hasn't shown success previously? Again, this isn't Teo's fault. The Toronto Blue Jays haven't had playoff success, as I'll get into in the second segment. But we see this thing with the Toronto Blue Jays is you keep trying things that aren't working. It might not be the worst idea to explore new faces, try some new different identities in this dugout and see if other things can mesh.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I totally would understand them going for that perspective is, they think, and maybe there is bad blood, and that might be what it comes down to. Like, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but Teoscar obviously has a love for Hazel Mae, has love for the Toronto, everybody in Toronto, the fans, and the players on the team. It's just what his relationship with the organization is. And for me, yeah, 100%. It might be the case that the Blue Jays maybe just don't want to revisit that. Maybe they want to move on and find new guys. That's definitely a possibility. But at the end of the day, for me, if Teoscar Hernandez is the right option and the best option going into this offseason, then I don't see a problem pushing for it. The Yankees are going to try and bring Juan Soto back next year. I mean, that's just a given. You got to expect that. And the Dodgers are probably going to try to bring Teo back. The question is, are you going to outbid the Dodgers and are you going to outbid the Yankees for these players? And this is a whole nother conversation about which free agents land where. But at the end of the day, I think as fans, I think we all want Teo to come back. It's just, how much does the organization value him? I think is the big question.
It's a tough scenario because you look at what the Toronto Blue Jays have kind of said this offseason. Again, this is it's kind of vague. This isn't a concrete number, but they've said give or take $50 million a year. Teoscar Hernandez made $23.5 million. The Toronto Blue Jays did not want to pay Teoscar $23.5 million. That's why he didn't come back to the Toronto Blue Jays. And as I said before, Teoscar Hernandez's overwhelmingly strongest trait is his power. Ross Atkins has said he doesn't necessarily want a power bat. That's low-hanging fruit. That's very easy to add. So just with the history, if history tends to repeat itself, as we've seen in this Toronto Blue Jays organization, Teoscar Hernandez has played himself into a contract that's going to exceed $23.5 million. Just it's simple as that. It's going to be at minimum, I'm going to say $25 million. I don't see Ross Atkins forking it over to him. I don't. He doesn't obviously value power as much as he should. this is a move that I could see fitting for this team. I just think with the history, the bad blood that might be still present in the organization, it's going to be the monetary value again. They're not going to reach a number that they're going to agree on. Teoscar Hernandez is going to want around 25 to 30 million, which he probably deserves. He'll probably easily get with another market. But with the Toronto Blue Jays, with all these other free agents that you're going to have to re-sign, obviously, throughout the years, unless somehow you want to bring back Teoscar Hernandez on a one-year deal, again, that's going to be an interesting thing too. Does he want to be locked up for a longer time? Does he want to just kind of do this bridge deal? Does he want to sign another one-year deal? For me, this is more of a prove-it year for Teoscar Hernandez. One of those, not necessarily a prove-it year in terms of him being a good baseball player, but just a prove-it year that, hey, I am worth the money. I deserve a higher contract. So I think this is going to be a longer-term deal if I had to guess. And with all the free agents that you already need to sign in Toronto, I just don't see this as a realistic possibility of there being a reunion with Teoscar Hernandez. But on the personal side, boy, would I ever love to see this.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I feel too. It's 100%. I want him back. I don't care. Again, it's not my money, so obviously I don't care about that part of it. But it is from an organizational standpoint. They're going to have to bolster the bullpen for one. We've talked about the positional needs, and if you're paying half what you want to spend in the offseason to one player, I can't see it happening. And I know that if Teoscar Hernandez comes back, the Blue Jays are going to have to overbid for him. And if that's the case, that's more money out of your pocket that you want to spend in the offseason. So that obviously that's sort of the interesting piece here is what will this organization do? And I think a little bit as fans and as people that cover this team every day, we're a little bit still unclear on what the direction is and where they want to go and what issues they want to press going into this offseason. I think that's why when we're doing a little bit of this speculation on who's who and who will be here next year, it's a lot of, grasping at straws. We don't necessarily know what the pieces that they're looking at. So at the end of the day, this is speculation, and we're not trying to put it out there at all that this is a guarantee or anything like that. I mean, we're not the basic Toronto Blue Jays media out here, so we don't spread misinformation as much as possible. But in saying that, it's a fun topic because it's a realistic option. Is it going to happen? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But it is one of those out there, right? And that's what this offseason is going to be, is looking at what are those options moving into 2025. And that's going to have to be the big conversation. So anyway, in saying that, there's a lot to go over here, Carter. I just before we move on and really start to break down what Teoscar is in this second segment, do you have any other piece that you want to throw in just based on sort of what we were talking about?
No, I'll just leave it kind of with my final thoughts. I don't think it's going to happen, but how can't you like the Teoscar Hernandez era in Toronto? What he did for this organization, his time with the team, just a guy that just put a smile on his face every single time he was on the baseball field. Definitely made it a lot more fun to watch Teoscar Hernandez, and then maybe he picks up some other guys in this dugout as well. Yeah. We talk about a time where there was more of a fun baseball team compared to this more serious team and what that looked like. 2021 and 2022 were a million times more fun than 2023 and 2024. So I think we're at the point where if we can inject any sort of fun in this baseball team in any sort of capacity, we got to end up trying to do that, at least in some sort of form.
Yeah, I like that. We're going to get more into this and really break down what Teoscar Hernandez has done this year to earn a spot in fans' minds of, we want this guy back. So we're going to do all that next. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. As you guys know, I love Game Time. I'm already using it this season for the NHL here in Winnipeg, going to Winnipeg Jets games, everything like that. I have been scouring Game Time because they do have the best deals. And I don't know how many times I've talked about this, but it's they have the Game Time picks. It makes it easier. They give you the best deal right off the top, so you don't have to go searching. They also have their flash deals where just randomly they'll have a sale on those tickets. It's great. Also, they have the all-in pricing. This feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. This is a huge one for me. I don't want to go into the checkout and then find out that it's an extra $30 per ticket because of all these sort of whatever fees. They also have the seat views. I love the seat views. I want to know where I'm sitting. I want to know what the view is. Otherwise, I might have to go look at a different seat. And they also have the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if not. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and more with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, Carter, just back to the conversation. Teoscar Hernandez, how would he fit onto this team? What has he done this season to prove it to not only Dodger fans and the rest of the league, but to Blue Jays fans? And to the fact that we want this guy back. What has he done, Carter?
We'll go start with Teoscar Hernandez and go over just his season stats. I'll go over his playoff stats as well, and I'm going to go over his career playoff stats. It's going to be a little bit of a stat dump, unfortunately, for you guys, or fortunately. So you're going to kind of know where we are at with Teoscar Hernandez. So in the regular season, a 272 batting average, 33 home runs, 99 RBIs, an OPS of 840. I'm going to just start with comparing that to how that would fit on the Toronto Blue Jays. So we look at that OPS. The only ones that OPS is better is Vladdy, obviously. Vladdy had a very good year. Home runs. Teoscar Hernandez leads the Toronto Blue Jays in home runs by 3. Obviously, Vladdy being at 30, and then the next person being might as well be at 5 because this team just did not hit home runs. You go to the RBIs, 99 RBIs for Teoscar Hernandez. That would also be second on the Toronto Blue Jays just because there's a guy named Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on this baseball team at 103. A lot of these offensive categories he's going to be either first or second, and it's just going to be because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on this team. Teoscar Hernandez in this lineup provides you an automatic 4-bat. That's where he would have slotted in on this team. And that's something we desperately needed so badly, especially when you're going through times where you had Justin Turner at your 4, you had Alejandro Kirk at the end of the season at your 4, you had Dalton Varsho at sometimes at your 4, you had Bo Bichette at your 4, which normally isn't that bad. This year, obviously one of the worst things that we did have to watch for our Toronto Blue Jays. But when we go to the postseason with Teoscar Hernandez, this guy he rakes. That's what he does in the postseason. This guy is built for the lights when they are on. So he's been in the postseason 3 times. The first time being with the Toronto Blue Jays in 2020, a little bit of a Mickey Mouse series there. That's the Rays one. Didn't actually do that well there. But again, just played 2 games. I'm not taking too much away from that. And that was the COVID year. But 2022, the year we don't like to talk about that much, had a very good second game, 2 home runs in the second game with 4 RBIs. I'm not going to tell you guys how that game ended up. But with the Dodgers this season in 24 at-bats, he has 6 hits for an average of 250, has 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, has hit home runs in big spots time and time again throughout the playoffs. So if you're worried about this guy with the lights on, with the pressure, some people in the comments recently have said, Vladdy, is he built for the pressure? Bo, is he built for the pressure? Teoscar Hernandez has shown that he is built for the big moment.
That's the big thing, Carter. We talk about this, right? We are worried. You have to get to the dance. But when you're in the dance and the lights are on and the crowd is buzzing, how do you perform? That was a big question with this team. We've seen what they've done in the playoffs. And Teoscar shows that these are the moments and these are the series that he's built for. And you need a guy like that in your lineup that can drive in those runs with runners in scoring position. That needs to happen for you to win baseball games. And Teo shows that he doesn't look away when the lights get too bright. He just powers through. So that, again, at the end of the day, this is somebody that fits this lineup and fits this mold of what the Toronto Blue Jays need to be moving forward. So yes, Rogers might not like the fact that that they may not have the best relationship, but at the end of the day, they have to do what's best for their baseball club. And right now, maybe what's best for their baseball club is to bring back Teo.
Well, let's go back a little bit in time here. We're talking about how good of a baseball player Teoscar Hernandez is. Why was this guy gone in the first place? Let's kind of take a back trip down memory lane here and go back to 2022 when we have a trade. Teoscar Hernandez is sent to the Seattle Mariners for Eric Swanson. I believe there was one more player in that trade. I can't remember who it is, but Eric Swanson was the main one. Teoscar Hernandez, it didn't seem like he was going to resign. That was definitely the feeling at the time. That was Teoscar was going to play the 2023 season, probably test free agency for 2024. So he decided to get a little bit more control, and Eric Swanson at that point was a very effective reliever. Was very good in 2023, not as good in 2024. Just your overall thoughts. It's been 2 years now. Again, it's debatable if you can say that you can make a conclusion after 2 years of a trade, especially when Eric Swanson, again, debatable. Has he his prime? Has he not his prime? Overall thoughts. Was this a good move at the time? Again, when we're in 2022, the bullpen's not as good. You have more power. So at that point, there are some reasons. We're definitely in different spots than we are right now. But overall, how do you feel about the trade in 2024?
Carter, I mean, okay. This is a good question because I love Swanson. I really do. And I think that this is a down year and he'll come back next year and he'll be perfectly fine. I really do believe that. But at the end of the day, Bats are what matters. You need guys that can hit the ball. That's what wins you baseball games. I know everybody likes to talk about defense and pitching and whatever else, but we're seeing it in the playoffs. You need to score runs. And the Yankees, I mean, they have their bullpen is terrible. And look where they're at. At the end of the day, you need guys that can drive in runs. That's how we win baseball games. Because you can't win a 1-0 baseball game in the playoffs. We're just not there. That's not this era of baseball. That's over. So at the end of the day, you need guys to drive in runs. So looking back at it, at the time, I understand the thought process a little bit, right? A guy that you at the time was probably going to move on and whatever, and you needed to get some bullpen help. You had to make that move, and I understand that. If I had it my perfect way and we could have re-signed Teoscar and he was going to stay, 100%, I'm looking back, you have to want Teo back instead of Swanson. As much as I love Swanson, he's just a better fit for this baseball team all around. You have him, Bo, and Vlad all in one lineup. I mean, that's scary when they're all on. And I fully believe Bo's going to be back next year as well. I don't think that this is going to be the rest of Bo Bichette's career here. So those 3 in one lineup to me is makes an astronomical difference. And yeah, and a lot of these guys again are not that old. So you have, this is still tough stretch. The guys haven't been able to put it together at the same time. But if you have all those 3 of those guys going into 2025, 2026, 2027, I bet you this baseball team looks a whole lot different.
Yeah, you made some good points there. Adam Mako was the other trade piece, the 8th prospect on the Toronto Blue Jays top prospect list. So that's another piece that you got to factor into the trade. At the time and the way things played out right now, I think that the Toronto Blue Jays did everything right up until not re-signing Teoscar Hernandez in 2024. You make that trade, you re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, you get him back in 2024. That's a fleecing. That's a Ross Atkins absolute fleece job, and that's what would have been perfect for this Toronto Blue Jays team. You get Eric Swanson, you get Mako, you get a reliever that should be reliable for the next season, was reliable in 2023, again, 2024 off year. That's what I'm chalking it up to. And you got some upside with Mako as well. Again, when you look at it in terms of the last 2 seasons, would you have Eric Swanson and Mako compared to Teoscar Hernandez? Do I want the 33 home run hitter, the guy that's hitting home runs in the playoffs? Absolutely. The guy that's hitting grand slams against the Padres. Yeah, I want that guy for sure. So at the end of the day, which one's going to be more meaningful down the stretch? Probably Teoscar Hernandez. He's going to be able to be in bigger spots more often. With the bullpen arm, you're going to get 1 inning maybe every game. And that's, again, in the playoffs, you're probably pitching this guy. There's no rest times in the playoffs. You don't really care about that too much. But overall, looking back at it, yeah, you probably want Teoscar Hernandez at the end of this deal. But you could have the best of both worlds. You could have had Eric Swanson, you could have had Adam Mako, and you could have had Teoscar Hernandez all on your baseball team all at the same time. So I like the trade at that time. I think it was a good value back. Looking back at it now, I wouldn't say that it's a fleece on any side. I think right now, if you go back to it, I think the Jays still won because look what the Mariners are at right now. But overall, yeah, in that point, you want Teoscar Hernandez back. But it's just, again, it's Ross Atkins fumbling the bag in this management team.
Absolutely. There you go. There's a situation where you have all the fans on your back with you re-sign Teoscar Hernandez. You overpay for him and you bring him back. That deal looks unbelievable, Carter. And that is where Ross Atkins could have made that move. And instead of everybody being against him, they look back on that deal and realize what he can do. But instead, he decides not to re-sign him because it's too much money. And now he looks like the fool.
See, I got a crazy stat for you here as well. So Teoscar Hernandez, the contract is $23.5 million. You add up Kevin Kiermaier's contract and Justin Turner's contract, that's $23.5 million.
Yeah.
You got Kevin Kiermaier and Justin Turner over Teoscar Hernandez. That's where we're at. That's what the Toronto Blue Jays did. That's the reality of the situation. Every situation when we're talking about, the Blue Jays are bad. Why are we bad? It goes back to Ross Atkins every single time. And I hate that we have to bring it up all the time, but it's just crazy that this guy continues to have a job with absolutely no success in the major leagues.
That makes me sick, to be honest with you. That actually makes me sick as a fan to hear. You see what this guy's doing and you see what those two brought to the table. It really, it's disgusting. I don't even want to think about it. I'm going to go to bed tonight sitting in my room in the dark, looking at my ceiling and just thinking about the fact that we could have had Teoscar Hernandez this year and not Kevin Kiermaier and not Justin Turner. And my life would be a whole lot better right now. I guarantee you that. Yeah, we might still not make the playoffs, maybe, but I think I feel a little bit better knowing that we have a 30 home run guy in 30 home run guys in our lineup.
Well, and at that point, we're trending. We have a good bullpen in 2022. It's, I would say, above league average at that point. 2023, a great bullpen. This year, not very well. You make a trade. The league is looking to bolster the bullpen. You're kind of giving up the power, obviously. You expect maybe the offense to take a little bit of dip, but you want the pitching to go up. Now we're just in a spot where the offense is kind of mediocre. The bullpen's horrible, and we have good starting pitching. So things did not work out at all for the Toronto Blue Jays team. And just to make things worse, I'm going to quickly go over the last time Teoscar Hernandez was on the Toronto Blue Jays compared to 2024. His team had 1,464 hits in 2022. I could have used 2021. It would have been way worse of stats because obviously 2021, huge offensive year. But I decided to make it a little bit more lenient, make it a little bit closer. In 2024, 1,306. So it's over 150 hits less. An OPS of 760 in 2022, 703 this season. The only players on the Toronto Blue Jays in the OPS over that was Spencer Horwitz and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm only counting guys with 25 at-bats. You can throw Justin Turner in there, I guess, but played half a season with the Toronto Blue Jays. Justin Turner was our third highest OPS guy on the Toronto Blue Jays. And the last one I have, again, this is a little bit misleading, but I thought it was funny. Guess how many errors compared we had 2022 and then in 2024?
I don't even want to know. This is gonna hurt me deeply.
We had 82 in 2022, and we have 92 in 2024. So
yeah,
a part of the reason that we traded Teoscar Hernandez as well was he was a defensive liability. We wanted to completely just revamp the defense. And again, when you look at defensive runs saved, things like that, the Toronto Blue Jays had a good defense. I'm not going to say they didn't, but you make more errors than you did when you had Teoscar Hernandez in the outfield. It just seems a little bit ironic just how things ended up for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I think that that's the point, right, from a fan perspective that makes everyone upset. And that's why there is so much outcry right now is we were told the direction of this team and what it needed. They thought it needed to be a World Series contender. Now we're seeing the script flip because we're seeing teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees who just crush the baseball, succeeding and not worrying about their defense or pitching. And now we're looking at this like, okay, this was the completely wrong direction that this team should have been headed. And they're looking back, there was a lot of moves that could have made this team way better and that just weren't taken advantage of for just stupidity. And I hate to bring it, like you said, bring it back to Ross Atkins all the time. But at the end of the day, we've seen 9 years of him. And we've seen good moves. We've seen really, really bad moves. And that's sort of why it just hurts me because those really, really bad moves then just kill the momentum. And this team needs that momentum, needs something to build on every year. And this season coming off 2024, I think is a very, very hard year to build off of unless there's good signings in this offseason.
Yeah, the only players that should be trying to build off of 2024 are Bowden Francis and probably Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I guess Spencer Horwitz, Ernie Clement. There's some other guys, but the main ones obviously are those ones I just mentioned. Overall, though, yeah, let's leave 2024 in the past. Let's rebuild 2025. Let's not take anything from 2024 from the majority of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team. Well, we've been talking about the Toronto Blue Jays and a bad baseball team for 28, almost 29 minutes. Let's talk about teams that are unfortunately better than the Toronto Blue Jays, and one of them is the New York Yankees. That we'll get into after this short break.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys all know I might be FanDuel's biggest supporter right now because I feel like some days I'm donating money and other days they are paying me like an employee because I have been winning nonstop this past couple weeks in football, and I am pumped up about it. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. I'm telling you, the live in-game betting makes everything so much easier. You can see the trends of what's happening. You can see which way the game's going, and FanDuel lets you do that, and that's a huge part of this. Play the trends. Don't just look at the stats before the game and play something down. Watch the game. See what's working. See what's not working. That's FanDuel.com. All right. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this, but here we are.
Yeah, which New York team do you want first?
Let's start bad. I want to end on a high here. So let's start bad. The Yankees win. I It's what I expected, to be honest. I see the success that they were building to. It just kills me. My nana is a New York Yankees fan. She was at our place for Thanksgiving, and she's cheering for the Yankees in front of me. Like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to like burn her Yankees jersey. I think I'm gonna go to her house and burn it if they win. That's all I'm saying. She's gonna be terrified. But
I think Alex Cobb might be a Yankees fan. I think that's where we're at. It just looked horrible. I guess obviously pressure. There's a bunch of things going on. It's not that he's actually bad, but it looked like he was trying his hardest to throw that game early on. And the Guardians did a good job about staying in it. But I mean, I just want to say this. Unfortunately, Luke Weaver, the Yankees closer, he's kind of gross. He's kind of nasty. Like just watching him fan 3 in a row in the 9th inning. I don't care who you're going against. That was electric. And I'll say that I'll just take one on the chin. Unfortunately, as giving the Yankees a little bit of flowers there. But unfortunately for the Juan Soto sweepstakes, it's every time the Yankees win, I feel like it's just even less likely. Even though, like, I feel like we're not likely to get Juan Soto at all. Obviously, that we've kind of portrayed that on our Juan Soto episode. But it's like getting another just shot in the heart every single time you see the New York Yankees win another game.
Yep, dude, the home run went over the fence, and I'm like, well, the 1% chance that we had is gone. This guy just hit a big home run, and the Yankees are going to want him back. So, and the Yankees can outbid everybody. So I don't know, man. It's frustrating. This is a frustrating game to watch. And you know what? It was a frustrating weekend in general, and like Monday with football and baseball and hockey and everything in between. I just feel like I was just getting punched in the gut, dude. I was losing NHL fantasy. I was losing NFL fantasy. And just to watch the Yankees win was just like nail in the coffin for me. I was just pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have to get used to getting punched in the gut with that NHL fantasy team you do have, but we'll leave that where it is right now. Let's talk about the other New York team that I'm having way more fun watching. It's the Lindor show. I'll say that, but I've said this before on the podcast. Mark Vientos, like who is this guy? This guy's slugging over 650. Hit a grand slam again today. Just it's absolutely insane. Obviously, Lindor starts it off the lead off home run. That's obviously electric. That's his best George Springer impression, I guess you could say. Just make a little bit of Blue Jays flowers there, but yeah. And then Sean Manaea, I like this storyline here. A guy that's a grizzled vet, maybe a little bit forgotten about. Goes 7 scoreless against the Phillies. Has another good outing in this game against the Dodgers. Obviously, a lineup. Don't have to say how good it is. Just overall, very good performance in the Mets. And the problem with this is that a New York final would be electric. But again, with how heavily the Yankees are going to be favored in that series, I'm going to be shaking my boots every single game if that is what we end up having.
Yeah, you know what? I think how this plays out is any way except one, this World Series is electric. Yankees, Dodgers, the payrolls versus the payrolls pretty much would be electric. And then, having the New York series would be crazy. The only way that this isn't a very, very entertaining, suspenseful World Series is if somehow Cleveland wins.
I don't know if you could say it's not going to be a good World Series.
It might be.
It's worse. The Guardians are a good baseball team.
No,
I thought
for
going
sure.
into the playoffs, like they were one of the best teams on paper.
But am I super excited to see Dodgers versus Cleveland? Not so much. Am I excited to see the payrolls battle it out for who can spend the most money and win? A little bit more.
Yeah, but like you don't get like the star factor as much from the Mets though as you get from a team like the Guardians or like a team like the Dodgers. Obviously, imagine a Colossae Shohei Ohtani matchup in the 9th inning.
Yeah,
World Series on the line. Imagine how electric that would be.
True,
it'd be absolutely insane. That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for. Actually, I want it to be.
Too.
I want it Dodgers Guardians.
To be honest with you, I want Cleveland versus Mets. But I feel like the baseball gods are pretty against everybody right now, and it's going to be Dodgers Yankees just because that's how it looks like it's going to play out. I just don't know. For me personally, I just don't look at a Guardians Dodgers or Guardians Mets as like the most entertaining of all time World Series. But like a Yankees Dodgers or Yankees Mets, dude, Like, imagine New York.
Oh, New York would be electric if it was the Mets and the Yankees. There might be
There would
fights
be
on the street.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, the city would burn to the ground, I think.
Yeah, it'd
It's
be like
nuts.
our classic Canucks in 2011 after the things that we don't speak about over there. And I'm gonna rephrase what I said. I do want the Mets to win. Like in my heart, I want the Mets to win. But I think it would be a better series. I think it'd be better baseball to watch if it would be the Dodgers and the Guardians. That's where I'm at. If I had to pick a team that like straight up gonna win World Series, it's the Mets. I love the storyline. How can you hate
Yeah.
what Lindor and others and company are doing for that baseball team? But yeah, New York. I think the best one for like the storyline, it has to be the New Yorks. Obviously, I think that's like how couldn't it be?
Yeah, dude, it would be nasty. And to see Pistol Pete, maybe hit like a walk-off dinger sometime, like, I don't know, dude. Like, that would just be
Yeah. Last question of the podcast. So for that World Series, you got Mets and you got Yankees. How much just like a one night like hotel tickets cost? Like what are the odds? Like they're just like your entire bank account. That's where we're
dude,
at.
you couldn't step into the city of New York for under $1,000.
Yeah, they actually might show up like they have barricades and like
Yeah.
it's like a cover just to get into New York. It's like a club, just the entire
Yeah.
city of New York. But the vibes there would be absolutely electric. So I mean, for you, if you live in New York, that's what you got to be hoping for, right? Like you probably, if you're a Yankees fan, you got to hate the Mets. If you're a Mets fan, you got to hate the Yankees. But you got to want that series.
Absolutely. No, like as those two teams, like, fan bases would absolutely clash. Like, it would be devastating for
I
like,
can't wait to see the internet. Twitter is going to be electric if that happens.
yeah, man. Yeah. But I think, like, for an overall, like, excitement in the city, like, that place would be buzzing every night of the week during that series. Like, it would be awesome.
See, like at the end of the day, let's end it off with this. You live in a state where you have a 50% chance of making the World Series and you're in the conference finals of baseball. It's absolutely insane. So congrats to the to New York just for I guess being the best at baseball. Debatably, I got to see how things work out, obviously. But just gonna end off with this like support. Everything recently has obviously been appreciated. We're in a little bit of a lull in the Toronto Blue Jays season. Obviously, just wishing that the Toronto Blue Jays were there. And just in case you guys are wondering, the Toronto Blue Jays, they still do suck. You haven't heard about them, but they're still not a good baseball team. But let's focus on the Mets. Let's focus on some whatever you guys want the World Series to be. Let's get on board. You got a couple more weeks of baseball. It's so fun to watch. If you guys aren't taking advantage of this on TV right now, there's some words I would use off the air, but I'm not going to use on here. Just take advantage of it. Just you got superstars, these rosters. You want the Blue Jays to be there, but it doesn't get a lot better than this.
Well, dude, so I got a Dodgers and a Mets jersey sitting in my closet that I just do not wear. But if either of those teams play the Yankees, I will be repping the other team's jersey until the day the Yankees are kicked out of the playoffs. I do not care. I'm a Blue Jays fan at heart, but I'm also a complete Yankees hater. So let's go.
Yeah, it's like if the Toronto Blue Jays don't win, then just the New York Yankees lose. That's all you hope for. That's the next thing. It's 1A, 1B. I was almost going to say that I'd rather see the Yankees lose a World Series than the Toronto Blue Jays win, but I can't go out on a limb that crazily. But just that's all I got for this episode. I thought we were snapping around a little bit here. It's obviously fun to reminisce about a guy that obviously us among with Toronto Blue Jays Nation. Just how do you hate Teoscar Hernandez? Tough guy to hate. Would be electric if he does come back. The reality is probably not going to happen, but it is fun to speculate in some of these moments.
Yeah, and as always, we appreciate you guys making us your first listen. If you want to find a second listen, go check out Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan. Sully, great dude, runs a great show. Check him out. And as always, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.